Hi, I'm Brianna Young, and I'm coming at you from my classroom at Roosevelt Creative Corridor Business Academy in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Part of what we do as a business academy is we tend to push and innovate as much as we can through our curriculum, schedule, and structures and systems. That means we encounter quite a bit of attention on trends in education. We seek to move beyond those trends, but in this experience of helping build the school, I've noticed a pattern in the way that teachers really tend to cling to common, popular phrases and tend to over-apply them, perhaps. So the focus of this video is going to be talking about learning styles, growth mindset, and the danger of buzzwords in understanding learning. I've noticed if there's anything teachers love more than acronyms, it's buzzwords. We see trends in education surface every year, and teachers who've been around long enough notice the same ideas repeating with different labels. I can't tell you how many conversations with colleagues that I've had where I think I've discovered some great new idea, and they're like, Brianna, we did that like 10 years ago. A simple Google search conjures up countless compilations of words, concepts, and acronyms that carry various meanings through different classroom applications. Complex neurological theories and evidence-based practice are made more accessible to the blog-loving Teachers Pay Teachers crew through fun fonts and catchy phrases, but at what cost? Clinging to sound bites may seem like a quick fix to learn concepts, but missing the substance of the research and theories can lead to misinterpretations, misapplications, and defeat the very purpose of the scientific concept itself. Today I want to explore some common educational jargon, dig into their sources, original intentions, and how educators need to proceed with caution to avoid misinterpreting them. The first issue I want to tackle is learning styles. We've done a lot, honestly, in our school setting having to do with learning styles. They're commonly divided up into three areas. This idea of auditory, right, more the hearing base, that visual with images, and then kinesthetic, maybe more of those hands-on learners. But according to a study through Yale, over 71 different categories have been identified. 71. I don't even have that many kids in my classroom. And the fact that kids often display more than one means that any theories that I tap into to try and improve my practice using these learning styles might just prove to be ineffective anyway. One study, though, the same one from Yale, did prove that learners can develop subjective preferences for studying or digesting material. Studies actually deny that students actually learn better through a self-reported learning style. Part of that is developmental stages change the way kids learn. Depends if they're more hands-on early on, a combination of auditory and visual skills. Students who are learning another language often benefit from visuals. So it really just kind of depends on the learner, the circumstance, even what they're learning, right? Many people would argue science is a much more hands-on, whereas perhaps literacy or reading might end up being more auditory. The original intent of these, I think, was good on the heart of educators. They wanted to understand how their kids best learn so they could deliver the content to them. But the better practice would be to teach styles of studying and then to mix up as an educator your own practice in the way you structure lessons, where student preferences can actually have an impact. So what is actually effectively going to change across the contents? How can you engage your students instead of fixing them to one style of getting information? The other one that's pretty close to my heart I want to spend some time talking about is project-based learning. According to the Buck Institute, there's 7 reasons that project-based learning is a good idea. The first one is it engages hearts and minds. It pushes students towards deeper learning. They have exposure to opportunities they might not see otherwise and connections in the community. It gives them a sense of purpose in their learning. They develop true and authentic 21st century workplace skills that will benefit them, that employers are looking for. It gives them an opportunity to be creative, use technology in innovative and unique ways. And it allows for teachers and classmates to build stronger relationships with each other. Now, all of these things sound super incredible. And having lived it for a couple years now, definitely not the easiest thing to actually accomplish. The biggest thing I want to focus on is we love to use, oh, it's a project-based lesson, it's a project-based opportunity. But so often we get hung up on the difference between project-based learning versus simply a project. So some key distinguishers to actually dive into the best learning practice for kids versus just using a buzzword would be thinking about if you're designing a project-based learning opportunity, also sometimes called a problem-based learning opportunity, do your kids have choice and flexibility? Do they have the option to pick an outcome that aligns with a passion of theirs? Do they have flexibility to work and to gather that information and show what they've learned in a unique way? Are they invested in deep critical thinking, not simply guiding themselves off of a rubric to say, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z in my poster, and present it at a fair, then I'm good. How are they actually engaging the content? Getting their hands, their ears, their eyes, all of those learning styles, right? How are they engaging in those things? Another key piece is having an authentic audience. Project-based learning opportunities really should take kids outside of the classroom or bring the community into the classroom. Kids often don't have the opportunity to present to anyone other than their teachers and peers, so having an opportunity like this in a project-based environment is absolutely crucial. The last key piece is individualized outcomes to really make a project-based learning be a true thing that's better for students instead of just another buzzword that's dropped in the classroom. These individualized outcomes mean that it might be a lot more legwork and running around for the teacher in the sense that it's a lot to keep track of. Each student could be progressing through standards at a different pace. They could be working towards a different outcome from their classmates. They could be collaborating, and some might be working independently. The beauty of a true project-based environment is that teachers and students have the flexibility for learning opportunities that really benefit them where they're at, what they need, and keep them highly engaged. A problem by just dropping this word PBL can lead to lame projects that don't actually center on learning, just on outcomes. The process is really what gets kids there in the project-based learning environment. The last one I'm going to touch on is everyone's favorite, growth mindset. A little bit of background, Carol Dweck is a researcher who's done a lot on the way the brain works, neuroplasticity, and the way that what we believe about our brains actually has a lot of influence. Currently in schools, the growth mindset is an approach in philosophy that's really been boiled down to a bunch of cute little phrases, aka buzzwords, that teachers love to drop. You can't do it yet. Or maybe the ever popular, if you believe you can, you will. Dweck herself, in an article to The Atlantic in an interview she conducted, brought serious frustrations with how people are misinterpreting her theories. It's not simply a word you can add on to a negative student statement. It's not simply a cute collection of catchphrases that you can drop whenever you have need to try to boost your class morale. Growth mindset is an intentional instructional technique to teach kids how their brains actually work and learn so that they can believe that their brains can be molded and shaped. It's about teaching kids, like, you don't have to be born with it. You have a brain, and you can practice, and you can get better, and you can grow. You can give attention to something, and it will help you be successful. It may not look the same. Your success might not look the same as everyone else's, but growth can happen. And by neglecting to teach this to kids, and by neglecting to bring the true science and the true philosophy of growth mindset to our students, we're actually doing them a disservice. And they see teachers as just disingenuous because we drop these phrases and don't actually take the time to teach them why we're saying these things to them and why these things actually matter. And I feel like when a researcher takes time to get out on a talk show, to get out and give interviews about an article to argue against the application of their theory in schools, people should probably start paying attention. While simplifying concepts to better understand them is a natural skill of educators, we differentiate and break things down for kids. Oh wait, that's another buzzword. We need to ensure that we are only scaffolding for our students, not chunking things too much for our own learning and professional development. It's important that we take time to understand the meaning and origin of each of these buzzwords that we use to determine if these are actually best practice for our students. And the reality is, no buzzword or no educational trend is going to be the thing that's best for all kids. We need to be adjusting and be flexible to the learners that we have in front of us and use the science and the solid backgrounds and philosophies that we have in order to better educate our kids. Thanks for your time. I hope you learned something. I hope this was helpful.